Section 13 of the American Diary of a Japanese Girl. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. The American Diary of a Japanese Girl by Yone Noguchi. In America, Part 11. Second, dream and reality are not marked here by different badges. They waltz round. Dear poet, home. Was it in my dream that I heard the tinkle of bells? I thought something was going on. I parted from the bed. I pushed out my face from the window. Look at the procession of cows. I've read much of them, but I admit that it was my first occasion to admire them. I am a trivial Jap, only acquainted with cherry blossoms and lanterns. How I wish to knot the bells round my waist and whisk down the path by the violets. Lover's Lane. It should be the title for that path, I thought, if I were Mr. Poet. I finished my toilet. I leaped out upon the grasses, smiling up to the sunlight. I congratulated myself on my new life. Then I found my uncle sitting by the campfire. "Oh, hi-yo," I said, filling the seat on another side. I remember one Japanese essay, The Poetry of a Tea Kettle. Indeed, the kettle was a singer. Its melody was far-reaching. It was like a harp of pine leaves fingered by the zephyr. I faced up and saw my poet moving down from the lily pond, two frogs in his hand. "Frogs," I cried. "They will complete our table. How did you sleep, my lady?" "Splendid. Do you love the country?" "I begin to taste a greater joy in nature." "I'm happy to hear it, my dear. My life is like the life of a bird. I wake when the sun rises. I lay me in the bed at the bird's dipping into its nest. God made the night for keeping quiet. That is better than prayer itself. I light neither lamp nor candle. I presume that every young lady has certain secret work at night. Let me offer you a few candles." We ate breakfast from the table by the fire. Frogs supplied a special dish. I couldn't touch it, thinking of the songs of frogs that I had heard all the night long. Such a song! It was the muddy-booted song of the countryside. No valuable quality in it, of course, but I should say that they tried the best they could. Poor Monsieur's frog! I fancied the leg in my dish was that of one who volunteered to sing my lullaby. I almost cried in grief. The poet was ready to wash the dishes. I was quick to snatch his job. My uncle wiped them. Stupid uncle! He broke 2 dishes. I collected the bones of the frogs and buried them. On the stone above them I wrote with a pencil, "Tomb of Unknown Singers." What time was it when we were done with our breakfast? I couldn't tell. The first thing I did yesterday was to stop the tic-tac of my watch and hide it in the lowest drawer. The watch is a nuisance since I'm thrown in the garden of eternity. Third, I searched for a pen and ink in my willow cottage. Nothing like those. Foxy poet. He hid them from view, I fancied, in the opinion that playing with them for a girl is more jeopardous than swallowing needles. I say that letter writing, particularly a decent love letter, if there is one, isn't half so grave a crime as rhyming. I was spraying some water on a rose by the gate when I caught sight of a white quill by my shoes. "This will serve me perfectly," I said. I had not one thing with any tooth except my comb. Comb? Luckily, I've not lost it. Ara, ma, my hairpins. 5 of them vanished from my head while I was springing amid the rocks. By and by the stems of acacia leaves shall be used in their places. Don't you know this is quite a remote spot from civilization? A kitchen knife shaped my quill as a pen. Now only ink. I begged Uncle to run down 3 miles to fetch 1 bottle. Fourth, we went to breathe the song of the forest. The forest laces the poet's canyon. By the way, poet's ground spreads over 150 acres. Does he pay taxes? We climbed the road to the Milky Way. I beseech your forgiveness, it was merely the name I wished for the path to the poet's hilltop. I felt as if I were hurrying to the Sermon on the Mount. You would hardly believe Morning Glory if she said that sublimity vibrated in her soul because she was just a little oriental. How grand! We faced toward the gate of the Pacific Ocean. We were still. Why? Because we were thinking the same thing. We traversed the poet's graveyard. How romantic to put up a tombstone while living. How romantic to lie in the ecstasy of a marvelous view. We could be nearer the stars here. We stepped down to the canyon. The poet said solemnly, "Lady and gentlemen, this is a holy place where you can pray heartily." My uncle started to drone Bryant's hymn. The groves were God's first temples. "Did you ever read Thanatopsis, my dear?" Mr. Heine asked. "Yes, sir. It's a noble piece. So many thousand Asiatics converted every year to the English alphabet. Wonderful," he soliloquized. We seated ourselves by a brook. "Such a lesson in nature we endeavor to transcribe but fail," he sighed, looking on the trees. Then he turned to me questioning, "Do you hear the silent song of the forest?" I nodded. "Silence, silence," he muttered. We walked among the trees. We came back to the same hilltop when the large red ball of the sun sank heavily from the gate. Bye. I shook my handkerchief. The playful breeze carried it away. It glimmered like a silvery inspiration. Who knows how far it sailed? I thought a huge statue of the Muse bidding sayonara to the dying sun would be the fitting ornamentation for these heights. Countless numbers of people would look upon it from the valley. It would be a salvation if they could bind themselves with poesy by its noble figure. There was no question it would be more effective than 1,000 pages of poem. "I have no coin to build it," the poet said in dear openness. "Let me present it by and by." When? It must be after I get married to a rich philanthropist. We laughed. We rolled down the hill in the purple fragrance of evening. The evening was sweet like a legend. 5th. I wrote a letter to the artist. "My sweet Oscar, you will love no more your Morning Glory, I'm certain, when you are informed how she looks nowadays. She inclines against a willow trunk by her cottage. Were you ever acquainted with the great repose of a poetess? Her eyes flashed in divine sarcasm. She will shoot them down to the mortal domain. She lives on the mountain. Well, she murmurs in tragical accents, 'I pity you, ant mortals.' Isn't she shocking? Oscar, I've withdrawn to the heights and am prying into the incomprehensible of nature with Mr. Heine. He is unique. I take it upon me to say that he is a great poet, because in the first place he never asked me yet, do poems pay in Japan? It's such a trying work for an old man like him to pose as a poet all the time. Poet is a sensitive creation. He fancies, I think, the whole world is staring at him. Poor poet, he keeps up and tries to be picturesque as he can. I'm grieved to state, however, that his picturesqueness frequently drops into silliness. The absurd thing is that even my uncle takes a part in his farce. We had no meat to bite yesterday. The poet had no shot left for his gun. What did he plan, do you imagine? He went up the hill, shouldering his pick. My uncle retained him with a spade. "We will soon bring back a squirrel which we will dig out, Miss Morning Glory," the poet said. Could you ever suppose, Oscar, that any animal except an invalid, an animal who has 4 feet at that, instead of 2 like my venerable gentleman, could permit itself to be so slow like them? I laughed till my side ached. Funny old men. Every sort of sweat fell from their brows when they dragged their fatigued feet home, not accompanied by even 1 inch of any animal tail. "I've never heard yet, Mr. Poet, of a squirrel turned a turnip," I jibed. I dread old age because it makes woman inquisitive and man silly. Inquisitiveness is tasteless like wax, while silliness is helpless like a fish on the sand. I fear you are silly already when you say that you sat up late looking at my picture. Sat up late? What will you do if your mamma thinks you can't sleep from hard drink when you yawn continually at the table? Please don't do it again. Step to your bed at 6:30 as I do. Are you sure that my picture approved your act? I guess it shrugged its shoulders from contempt, the delicious moment of blushing being past. If my picture is so precious, I advise you to alter it to ashes. You will take 2 spoonfuls of the ashes every morning. I'm sure then your soul will be saved. Oh, my darling, I love you. I'm your little Jap girl. P.S. This letter was written by my duck quill, my new invention, you know. My handwriting is clumsy enough, I suppose, to sell as high as any ancient author's autograph. Sayonara. 6th. Oh, Poppy, beloved harbinger of California spring. I hung on the honorable eyes of a poppy by my door, its quaking cup burnt in love, for a meadowlark, perhaps. Let me feed you, my new friend, I said, and brought out a cupful of water. I moistened it. A golden flake of the sun ray came down to it. It smiled, daintily thanking me for my humble treat. I stared at it, slowly fabricating a fable of its love affair, when the breeze sent me a dreamy song. The song was old-fashioned, like the afternoon snore of a water-wheel. I plunged into the song, not knowing who was the singer. Our grandmamma's song, I exclaimed. She is the aged mother of our poet. She is within the rim of 90. I suspected her of having discovered the elixir for preserving eternal girlhood. You cannot help esteeming her a philosopher when you are told that she has visited San Francisco only twice in 10 years. I have no bit of doubt that she would die if you were to rob her of the sight of her flower garden and one stout scrapbook about her son's poems. They work a miracle. What a mystery is human life. I say that I'm touched by superstition. I've read of a villainous fox who masquerades in the shape of an old woman. My wretched fantasy about Mrs. Heine passed when I heard that no fox resided in the hill. She is such a dear grandma. She has no hostile grimace against age. She welcomes it. Her wrinkles are all her beauty. Natural ripening in age is but another form of girlhood. She is as happy as a sparrow. Sparrow never forgets, it is said in Nippon, to dance in its 100th year. She hoes round her garden. Her vanity is to make her table rich with her own potatoes and roses. She lives alone by herself in a cottage some 100 steps from mine. Did you ever taste her cooking? Good morning, Mrs. Heine, I said. Come in. She showed herself, extending her large hands. They were damp. I thought she was employing herself in washing. Is there any sweeter occupation than service to an old lady? Let me help you. I carried out a bucket to a spring in the backyard. I brimmed it with the waters. It was so weighty. A naughty stone bounced under my heel. I was thrown down like a toy. Alas, my bucket was upset over my skirt. I'd made myself a specimen of misery. Oh, Grandma, it's raining awfully outside, I cried. 7th, today I was the chef, while my uncle was second cook. I placed a heroic iron pot over the campfire. I dropped a lump of beef in, and afterward the mass of potatoes, carrots, and onions. Mr. Poet's directions were that they should boil for 2 hours. Mr. Heine intruded, saying that he would like to season them himself. Longfellow, Lowell, they all loved high seasoning as I, he said, snatching a pepper box from my hand. He kept tapping the bottom of the box when the cover fell into the pot. Oh, yeah, the red pepper garmented the whole thing. Go, Mr. Poet, why don't you mind your own business? You are a butler today. I spoke in rough sweetness and drove him away. He began to place a linen cloth on the table. While I dipped up all the pepper, he picked up 12 pebbles to weight the tablecloth. The first thing he put on the table was his claret bottle. How could he lose it from sight? When he said that everything was in place, he had forgotten the knives and forks. Dear old poet. We sat at the table under the wild rose bushes. Mr. Heine read aloud the following menu. Perfume of Omar's rose, water of Jordan River, mother-love broth, meat of wisdom, potatoes of simplicity, passion carrot, onion of wit, dream coffee, dessert. Typical Tokyo smile of Miss Morning Glory. My grandmamma was our guest. Mother, you talk too much always. Remember, this is a sacred service. Silence helps your digestion. Eat slowly, think something higher, and be content, Poet said. We smelled the perfume of Omar's rose and wet our lips with the water of Jordan River. The broth was served. Everybody choked with its pungent fire. Poor Mrs. Heine, she was showering her tear beans. This is perfectly seasoned. Send up your bowl again, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Poet's performance was beautifully buffoonish. We finished our meat and vegetables. I smiled lightly and said, "Are you ready for the Tokyo smile?" "Just 10 minutes yet, my dear," the poet smoothed such a lengthy grey beard. I winked to Grandma. We looked upon him slyly. End of section 13.